Gosh.
Well, welcome to episode ocho episodo of the Maximize Real Estate Podcast. Or is it just Maximize
I think it's just the Maximize podcast. We'll focus a lot on real estate because that's what we do, but we want to bring in value in other ways.
Now, we are still finding our way in life, and we haven't really settled on anything.
A little bit.
Sometimes.
So
It's a great day in our world.
it is.
Sun is shining, beautiful day, mid-80s.
Our wives like us.
Our wives love us.
Our kids love us.
Our kids love us, probably a little more than our wives. More unconditionally, anyway.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
So I'm Josh, by the way, and this is my main man, Justin. And today we're going to be talking about marketing and selling real estate.
Ooh, good topic.
It is a good topic.
That's actually, honestly, a great topic for you. So I will probably be asking you some questions along the way that I think other people might want to ask you because you are an excellent marketer in my mind.
Thank you.
So why don't you kick off? Why do you what is marketing to real estate and its necessity?
There are several different ways that you can go about this, right? So you can talk about from the real estate agent perspective. You can talk about from the business perspective, the brand perspective. There are different streets you can travel down, right? So the easiest way and the most, the most fundamental way that I've looked at real estate marketing and selling is from the aspect of the agent. Because I started as an agent. Obviously, we've grown this to a team and a brokerage, and now trying to run on all cylinders. And so it was you sat down and you'd be like, okay, I have this product. There are, let's say we're in a neighborhood of 500 homes. Mm-hmm. So you're in a subdivision of 500 homes. I have this house I want to sell. But let's say there are 15 other houses just like this on the market in this neighborhood. How do I get my place to stand out more than the other houses?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's how I initially started marketing houses, right? So I would do things that other agents would not do.
And I remember when you started doing, I want to say you were the first person that I saw in our community and maybe some even surrounding us that was working and purchasing expensive photography cameras and the Matterport camera.
Yeah. If you don't know what the Matterport camera is a 3D virtual reality. It creates a 3D virtual reality walkthrough of a home. So when you're on some of our favorite sites like moreohio.com, Zillow.com, Realtor.com.
I love that moreohio.com was the first one.
Moreohio.com.
You know what a good second one is? It's probably Remax.com.
Remax.com is a great one as well. But it's the one where you click and you can click and you can literally walk through the house. So my thought there, and I mean, it's still an expensive camera, but at the time it was a super expensive camera that no one else was doing.
Right.
And so it helped my listings stand apart. And what it did is what I began to realize was when people were walking through that house physically, it was actually their second showing because they would walk through the house virtually first. Mm-hmm. And typically you had better buyers. And obviously our clients love it when there's a better buyer that's coming in a house because they're more likely to buy.
And if we aren't talking 2021, 2022, it was helping shave days off market.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, it was, yeah. So even back, even in 2017, 2018, my listings, my average days on market back then were about 20 or 21 when industry wide they were closer to 60.
Right. You had 60 days industry wide. Yeah. In the Columbus market, we were probably looking closer to 35. Mm-hmm. And here you are in our neck of the woods before we have kind of branched out into other communities looking at 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what that does as well, because it's coming off the market sooner, people are getting more for their houses, even back then. Right.
So curious what you think of this, and I'm sure you'll agree. I think from the consumer behavior standpoint, if I am a buyer, it doesn't just catch my attention, but if I'm a buyer that sees an agent that markets other people's houses well, it makes me feel like that agent only gets the better houses. Yeah. And so when I know it's theirs and it's marketed well, my brain is telling me it's probably more valuable than the one next door, even if the one next door is just as nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. It almost becomes, and I know we've talked about it before as well, it almost becomes, the like I have a firm belief that I don't think people, and I know there are other like-minded people out there, but we are not in an environment right now that people want good customer service. They want a good customer experience.
Okay, I guess I can distinguish that.
Versus like, hey, I can go to Tim Hortons. I can go to Tim Hortons and get the same cup of coffee. Well,
Josh doesn't know anything about coffee.
I know nothing about
take
coffee.
This analogy very lightly if you're a coffee person.
And so I can go to Tim Hortons and I can get a small coffee for $1 or whatever.
Let's call it McDonald's.
I can go to McDonald's and get coffee for $1. Or I can go to Starbucks and get the same coffee, which I've been told it's not, but let's be honest, it is. A bottle of
Coffee
water
to coffee. Okay, we'll call it coffee to coffee.
Is almost $3. Mm-hmm. And what they're getting is they're not going to be able to walk around with that Starbucks cup in their hand. It'll be a McDonald's cup. And like people like the experience of being, I go to Starbucks. I don't go to McDonald's.
Right. And when you roll up to a Starbucks, what do you get that's different? First of all, the voice over the intercom is typically a little bit friendlier.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, but now they have the automated.
No, they do have some automated stuff, and then you get to the
I have fast food
counter and you look in the window and the aesthetics of the building are different, or if you go in and get it, the aesthetics are different. And so you're right, you're shopping in an experience, which, I mean, that's the difference between, let's say we're riding a roller coaster at Cedar Point versus Disney World. Obviously one is different, but when I wait in line at Disney World, like I'm walking through an experience.
Yep,
and so you're getting something totally different. I think you can look at real estate similarly. It's not the exact same. It's not apples to apples, but we're close. Like if I'm looking at a house from a marketing perspective as a buyer, I feel like I am getting more for the house and I feel better about my experience in the house, even from a buyer perspective, if I share a link to my friends where it's marketed really well and I say, look what I'm about to buy.
Exactly.
And so the picture is really full circle on a well-marketed house.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so you have, so it started with the professional photographer, then and then it became with the Matterport. You do drone photos. You have all these different things that, because like when I started in the business, like I was, so I bought a super nice camera when I got in the business because I was going to do it all myself. I was going to be the one-stop shop, and I took really good photos. Honestly, I did. But the thing, yeah, so it's all about the angles and the angles
Same
and the
with
light.
Me. Like just give me the angles and the light.
The angles and the lighting, and so my stuff started standing out then, and then I feel like okay, then you get to the point where you're like okay, how do I make this better? And like obviously it costs me money,
sure.
But obviously I have a much better customer experience with my client, or my client has a much better customer experience when I'm doing those things because they know I'm not, I'm not out there just putting a sign in the yard because it's going to sell.
Right. So if I'm a new agent and I've caught wind of this podcast and I'm watching it, trying to figure out what to do.
Smart.
Yeah. I obviously, if I'm new and my funds are different, like I'm not going to go out and buy a camera, and it probably feels like a lot in this market to pay for the professional photographer and Matterport out of pocket from somebody else or at closing to somebody else. Mm-hmm. Why would I do that now instead of waiting until I have more closings in?
Because you're creating the consistency in the brand.
Exactly.
So even today, so like in a day that I would say you don't, like not everyone's using professional photography. They're not doing the Matterport. They're not creating the layouts of the houses. These are things which Zach, by the way, we need to do that for our newest listing there. Side note. Yeah, because I realized it wasn't ordered. I didn't order it. My bad. But we're doing that because we want the same customer experience for our clients every time. They know what they're getting. They know we're not going to shortchange it because of the market that we're in. We did it when the market wasn't great. We're doing it when the market is great.
Right. And so if the market turns back down, the goal is to, if they're going to Josh Cooper, they're getting the same Josh Cooper, whether or not it's a downturn or not. And I'm not like speaking anything. Like I don't know if it's going to turn down. I'm not telling you it's going to turn down. But if something happens and the market changes, It's a brand thing. It's about being you no matter what.
Yep.
But I love to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And I think you do the same when it comes professionally. Like if you aren't to a place where you're doing it, if you're taking your own photos, at least study angles and at least take time and edit them a little bit.
Now, to be fair, you can do it with an iPhone. Like the newer cameras out there, the newer phones out there, the newer cameras on the phones out there, like they are very, very high quality stuff. They really are. But like I just took it a step because everybody has a smartphone, right? Well, most people have a smartphone.
Some people, like my dad, have an iPhone 4 that's never been updated.
I'm surprised the thing still functions.
It does, surprisingly. Huh. But just know he only uses it for phone calls and to play like Bejeweled. Don't text. It won't work.
But yeah, so I mean, like you can do that, but spend a little bit more time creating that brand, updating, and I'll say enhancing your photos, but like
sure,
you edit your photos to make them look better, brighter, so people can get
not to the point where they look airbrushed.
Yeah, correct. So yesterday is a great example of this. A great example of this. And I can say this because I know this agent will never, ever watch this podcast. But
no.
Yeah, I had an agent, or I had a seller come into my house, or come into the office yesterday, and she was irate of the pictures taken on her property. And to be fair, she spent like they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars, and
they're spending a percentage of their future earnings to get this thing done.
Yeah, and honestly, they weren't up to my standards. And
I agree.
Yeah, and so I had a nice conversation with that seller and said, "Hey, look, by the way, this is what we can do if you're interested." And obviously, so like a seller understands. They may not want to say it all the time, but a seller understands that the work that we put in, that there is value there. So creating that customer experience gives a seller they're more comfortable with that value, or they're more comfortable with it because they see the value. Does that make sense?
Yep. So I would say if you're taking photos, and I try not to pull from that experience too much, one, you don't want your photos to be dark. So if you can do anything to lighten your photos, please do it.
Yeah.
Every light should be on in the house. If you need to, please take an extra light, like some of the ones shining on our faces, to put in a dark corner. You don't want the house to appear dismal in any way. Even if you take good photos, it doesn't mean your photos are good.
Okay.
That makes sense?
A little.
It's like because you can take a good picture does not mean that you have edited them or taken a photo that will compare with the quality of a professional photographer, even if you like them and they're quote unquote good photos.
Yeah.
Also, please get timestamps out of pictures.
Yeah.
If I am a buyer and I look at a photo with a timestamp on it, my brain views it as older technology, which I might think, one, the photo might not even be up to date.
Older house.
Or if there's the house older because the photos are older. And so everything that you do subconsciously affects your buyers, which is why we said if they go into a house that's marketed well, they already think it has value, even if it's the exact same house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is why when we do open houses, we put out signs showing ways to get to the street. We throw extra flags in the yard because we want to feel like this house is celebrated. So when you're walking in the door, it's already changing your mood. We can't change it. We're not going to be deceitful. We're not trying to change houses. We're trying to change your perspective to understand the value the house actually holds.
Yeah, and that's what you do. I mean, really, like that's so like let's say someone comes to us and they say, "Hey, sell my house." A common misconception is they would expect us to bring the buyer as well, right? So like they want us to bring the buyer, which happens.
What we have with the backup of buyers in our pocket right now, with the way the market has been, definitely possible. We're doing it today,
but in reality, what happens is they pay us, they come to us to market the house to maximize their bottom dollar.
And the marketing isn't, excuse me, marketing isn't everything that they're paying for. They're also paying for us to be really good at negotiating. Yeah. And I think in this market, outside of if you just do a flat, everyone markets the same, you are paying me to make sure you understand how to negotiate your contract the best and then get it to the table well. So multiple different facets outside of just like a house will sell in 2022. Yeah. Even if it's done incorrectly and it sits on the market for 60 days, like it's going to sell and it's not going to take 6 months. But do you want top dollar? Do you want to make sure you keep the top dollar that somebody offered? So there's a lot of little things that go into that, but I was off too much.
So Todd, I was at a closing this morning and they were a referral of a past client of mine and they made a comment about the house that I sold for our past client. And it was on the market. This has been 3 years ago. It was on the market with a very good agent here locally. It was on the market for at least 5 months. I think it was like 170 some days, and came off the market. You know, like we did our thing. We came in there with the photography, the whole bit. You know, we ended up selling it. You know, so it's not like we did like a huge price drop. You know, we only dropped the house $5,000.
Yeah, I was just trying to remember. I think you were talking about that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we dropped it $5,000, put it back on the market. It was less than a week, and then we had an open house, and they ended up getting only $2,500 less than what they had it with originally, and it was in contract within a week.
So it is marketing, but we're a little bit different out of the marketing aspect. Like, what's the value if someone's watching it, what's the value of that price drop to the market outside of just being like, hey, it's cheaper, come buy it?
So what it does, so you need to be aware of what it does online with all the websites, right? So any change in a listing will change. It basically, I won't say it tricks the internet, because the internet's super smart, way smarter than me. But but what it does is it makes the internet think that the users, people online looking at these houses, they want to see this particular house because there is a change in the listing.
There's an adjustment, yeah.
So when that price drops, whether you change text, you add photos, you add the Matterport. You know, back in the day, what we used to do is when I say back in the day,
3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Good old day.
We would strategically, when the houses were sitting a little bit longer, a little secret into what I did, we would have the photos up. So we'd have the photos up. I would give it a week. If it wasn't sold, I would load a video in, because it triggers it back to the top of the search bar. And then if that doesn't happen, we would have an open house. So basically there are a few weeks where everything is systematically triggered, that is popping up in the top of the search bars, depending on the price point too. And something about that house too was, it was priced at $179,900, and so we dropped it to $174,900, which more people are going to search $175. So the people that are only searching up to $175, they're not going to see that $179,000 house.
There's a lot of searching that happens on quarters and halves.
Yep.
Versus $20,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, bullet point us and take us out. I just threw that at him.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Marketing's a real thing. Whether, obviously we focus on real estate, but the real core takeaway here is if you have the same product as someone else, figure out a way to separate that product from everyone else's who has the same product. You're selling widget X, I'm also selling widget X, but this person sells way more widget X's. Why? Figure out why and duplicate it in your own way. Obviously, don't steal anything or do whatever, but figure out a way to make it your own so you can start selling more widgets.
Find your brand, keep consistency.
Absolutely.
Watch it develop.
There it is.
We done.
Episode 8 out.